I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of a newsletter called Jay Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks, and I'm here with Michael Hudson of Hannan Metals at the in Toronto. It is the first day of March 2020, and we're here to introduce the story of Hannan Metals, which is something I just learned about very recently. I added it to my newsletter, and I'm very pleased to say that they are also a sponsor to my radio show, because it is a project. They have made a discovery, a sedimentary hosted copper-silver discovery that is not just any copper-silver discovery. It looks like it has enormous size, and also the assays that have been picked off the top have been just really amazing over large distances. So thank you for joining me, Michael. It's really it really is an amazing story. Now it's early days yet. You're going to be drilling it. You're going to be exploring it. Talk to us a little bit about what your plans are, and maybe give our audience a sense of the size and scale of this thing.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, for having me here. It's great to see this story starting to emerge over the last 6 months as we've started to pull it together. So it's a very new story as a consequence. I mean, this is a huge basinal scale discovery. I mean, we're talking about 120 kilometres of length of our mineral tenure, about 10 kilometres wide. And we're finding consistent copper over those areas at the same stratigraphic levels with the same context. As you said, it is very early days. I mean, We've just started to pull this together with the help of the petroleum geologists and explorers who've been there over the last few decades. It's given us the data resources of and a rich data environment, I could say, but with this copper just starting to be found along roads, in creeks, over this humongous area, we'd say. Yeah.
So you've had people on the ground that have been finding this, it's just really walking the outcrops, as it were, finding...
That's it. First principles.
And first principles. And so, do you? What sort of technologies are you using to try to understand the scope and the size and to know where to put your drill holes? How are you determining your drill program?
Yeah, the main technology at the moment is boot leather, geological hammer, and geological brain.
Okay.
So we're mapping a lot of the rocks. We're prospecting a lot of the areas. We're taking lots of stream sediment samples, lots of soils. But as I mentioned, that data-rich environment, we've got lots of seismic data that sees through the crust. So we can start to see there's three things that are very important in any deposit on Earth. It's source, transport, and trap. And the source rocks for us are deep, and we just know that they're there. They're not important to the economics today, but they are important to how this formed. The transport is through salt. There's a lot of salt in this basin, and that has scavenged these source rocks so effectively. And then we can start to see with the seismics, the structure, the transport method that these fluids have taken to the trap, which is where we see, and that's very important today. And that's basically where the rocks go from oxidized rocks to reduced rocks. So you go from red to grey rocks, and that copper just drops out. And that's the context that we're seeing over this large area. And with that data and that petroleum data and the geological hammers and the like, that's how it's coming together.
So it's right on surface. I mean, you've got a lot of assays right from surface over a large area, right?
It's only on surface to date. You asked me before about what our plans are, and I really didn't answer that, Jay, thoroughly. So our plans are to go and collect all this data, open up the new search space, and we'll learn a hell of a lot. I mean, we put this together over the last year with a relatively small budget. We've just raised a few $1 million, so we'll get 10 times as much information in the next 6 months. My adage is always to drill early in these systems, but not too early. So we've got to make sure that we're in the better parts. And I think that will come in the next few months. We'll start permitting. It takes a long time in Peru to permit these days. So that's about, we figure towards the end of the year, 6 months, once we start the process, well, 3/4 of the way through the year. And then the aim for the drilling will be to determine continuity and then determine scale. There's no doubt there's a hell of a lot of copper that's never been found before, and we've already demonstrated that. But how does it fit together, and how big is it with those continuous zones?
So you have other prototypes, you have other examples Africa, and I think there's one in Germany.
That's right. Poland and Germany has been mined for thousands of years. These are some of the biggest copper deposits on Earth. In terms of copper that we consume, porphyries are the major style today, but sediment-hosted copper has been the longest style and certainly the second most prolific style still on Earth. So we've got it's a relatively simple geological model. We can be quite predictive, and these things form, and they're very big, and we've certainly demonstrated that. Yeah, so we've got about a third of the size our tenure area as the African copper belt, which is one of the most prolific belts on Earth. So you can see that we're really working at the scale that these big systems develop at.
So high grades, they're high grade systems, as I understand it. They tend to be very high grade.
Absolutely.
So the economics, especially if it's near surface, you would think, should be pretty positive.
Yeah, well, there's a long way to go, of course, so it's a big forward-looking statement, but the mineralogy is chalcocite. That's how the copper's hosted, and that makes a perfect concentrate. That's a very much in-demand form of concentrate. It's very high grade and pure. So that's very important. Being close to surface is extremely important. We're not looking at something that's a kilometre down. I mean, it could easily go to a kilometre, but it starts at surface.
But you're seeing over a large area. You're seeing at surface.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all from surface. And in fact, we've only staked the areas that are from surface.
Yeah. Okay, so how well financed are you to go ahead and do your program this year?
Yeah, we've just got about $2.2 million in the bank. We just closed a financing a few weeks ago. And that will take us all through the next year, basically. We've got $1.5 million budget, and that will get us through that first drill program. It's relatively cheap using boot leather picks and brains.
Yeah, so it's really exciting. I guess people really, if they can sort of understand that this has enormous upside, your market cap is minuscule. I don't know what it is right now, but it's well below 10 million.
Yeah, it's around the 10 million at any given day. Yeah, so there's lots of opportunity here.
Lots of opportunities. So anything else you'd like to just say?
I think you need to really back people in this business. We've made lots of discoveries before. I've been in Peru for 25 years, as have other members of our team been in Peru. So we know the area. We know that social licensing is critical, and we're putting a lot of effort into doing the right thing from the very start. So I think that's a key part of the story also.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Well, all the best to you. I really look forward to it. I'm a shareholder, so I have an interest in this as well. I really wish you well.
Thank you, as am I.